Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode on Mind Your Soul podcast. And today's episode is about silent performance leadership. It's featuring Bastian Overgaard, who's Danish, and he's created this amazing new concept that's, I think, I'm a big fan, first of all, but is taking over in a different perspective in the company culture. And Bastian, please introduce yourself to our listeners.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me here. It's an honor. Yeah, so,
Oh,
so my name is Bastian Overgaard, and I have developed this system called Silent Performance, and it is basically about being very aware that we are a noisy species. We love to produce noise. We're living in a world with information overload, both from digital but also from just human noise making machines. And when you are in a corporate setting, especially, you will often attend a lot of meetings. There'll be a lot of communication. So my angle to using silence as a strategic leadership tool, it is actually bringing silence into our communication, silence into our meetings, instead of not just seeing silence as something related to meditation or mindfulness, or you have to go out into the woods and take
mhm.
10 days off. So I've developed this system, and you build it into your meetings and communication, and it's kind of both a collective tool, but it's also an individual leadership tool.
Okay. So how do you kind of implement it? Like, so we're having a meeting. Let's say we're having just a regular meeting. So when is it the right timing to pause, or like how does it take place?
Hmm. Yeah. So first of all, I have to tell you that for most people, this is quite new. I know
Okay.
silence is not new, but for most people, it's a new concept that a meeting, a conversation should be a mixture, a dynamic mix between talking and being silent together. That is quite
Mhm.
news for most people, and it is really effective. But when I tell people about this for the first time, and some of you viewers, listeners here will have heard it for the first time. It's like hearing about a pencil for the first time, and then asking, uh, "What kind of words should you write with this pencil? Like
Yes, kind of.
how long should the words be?" I mean, that's the question I always get. So how do you use it? And of course, I will give you some examples, but I have to tell you that it's primarily you have to start with understanding the mindset. It's very
Mhm.
much a mindset, and then it's a training of how to use this in a dynamic, facilitated way, like a conductor conducting music. So it's kind of the flow between words and silence.
I love that
So
analogy, like the way you described it. So it
yeah,
sounds as a powerful tool. So it's something you get training in, as you said.
yes, like what my work is both talking about this because it's a fundamental and very it it's a topic that is very relevant right now because we are in such a noisy, stressful, ever-changing
Oh yeah,
world.
for sure, for sure.
So a lot of people they want to hear my keynotes talking about this, giving these new ideas. But my I think my most important work is just like being a personal trainer. Like when you go to the to the gym and you want to
Mhm.
train, you know pretty fast, you know the basics of training. Like you know also how to run. You start running and then you stop running. Like what is
Yeah.
to it? But there are still a lot of small details, and the most important is keeping the motivation, keeping the remembering the why. Why are we doing this? And then of course also the how. So
Mhm.
I'm having these programs with companies and organizations where I kind of remind them to use it, and I also correct them into using it in the right way over
Okay.
time. Over time, like it can be 3 months, 6 months, or now a year. And and again, to use the analogy with the pencil, like there are some of the basics that, for example, you can start your meetings with silence. So when you come into a meeting, most of you have come from another meeting or just being doing something else. That means that according to scientists working with multitasking, what you experience is that when you jump from assignment A to assignment B, then there's something called attention residue. There's
Yes.
still some attention left on the old task, and that's why most people starts with a lot of small talk, because we have to land in the meeting.
Yeah,
And that's
for
good.
sure.
That is very good. We need the talking, but we also experience that if you use small talk to land, then the
Hmm.
meeting will have a small talk, a spice of small talk the whole meeting. I don't know how
Hmm.
to explain it, but then
Yeah,
it will
no,
be a small
yeah,
talk
I kind of
meeting.
understand what you're saying. So what I do is that I sometimes I also have back-to-back meetings. Some days are more hectic than others. So what I do is that I always pause where I do breathing exercises just before landing in another, because I have to clear my mind and head to the other person that I'm going to meet now. Uh, and as a
That,
coach, I know all about it. I'm coaching so many different people around the world. So it's like I have to like zoom into myself to clear my head in order to meet that person
hmm.
in their environment. Otherwise, I can't be the best version of myself. So tuning into ourselves, I would say, is a superpower. It's very hard because when we're silent, that is actually when we hear a lot, even though we're not hearing anything. You know what I mean?
No, but I
um,
love, just continue. You're very, it's very well put,
So I
but
always try to get my clients to actually do a lot of, I know you said it's not like mindfulness, but I would say tuning into yourself, just like otherwise we find small talking to be something where we try to compensate for that. But like having like each person in a company should have like a breathing exercise before going to a new task. And cognitively we perform better if we do so, you know?
exactly.
So it's proven, it's scientifically proven, but I don't know, in this culture, it's like, no, we just go from one meeting to another. It's about being busy all the time. And it's not really like, that's not productive
No.
to work like
So,
that.
so you make it in a way, you made it sound a little easy, because I know that you're very good at this and you've been practicing for a long time. But for a lot of the people I work with, it's very hard. A lot
It's
of
very
people, they
hard for
have,
my clients as well.
yeah, they have this. There's a Latin word. It's "hoa vacui," that means the fear of the empty space, and a lot of people, they have this fear and they just want to fill it out,
Oh, yeah.
and the words is kind of protection, and we use words to protect ourselves, to sell ourselves, to promote ourselves, all these things, and but that also destroys psychological safety in many groups, because we don't really see each other. And that's the paradox of this. And that's why my work can be very provocative for some people, but it can also be extremely powerful when people actually start using the principles. It's that we think that to talk to each other, we have to talk a lot, but less is more. And sometimes people talk so much that you kind of create a wall of words between you. So it's like, you know the saying, you can't see the forest because of all the trees. Then sometimes you can't hear each other for all the words. So by having this structure where we, very in a structured way, but also in an improvised way, can use silence during the meeting, that will always make us like reset our brain, but also recalibrate with each other and become more curious with each other. We will also stop the stream of words that some of us are very good at producing. So there are many ways of doing this, but it's very important to articulate it in a way that everyone understands it. And you have to
Absolutely.
be very powerful. People think that this is a soft tool because silence, it sounds soft, but it's actually a very hard tool. So, for example, I see that my clients, those clients that actually do their homework and do what I tell them
I
to do,
resonate with you. Yeah.
you know what they experience? They experience that, wow, after we started using silence as a structured part of our meetings, we finish our meetings 10 minutes before,
I
20
love
minutes
it.
before, half an hour before. And people, they don't understand it. People say, we don't have time to be silent together. But the thing is that when we just talk and talk and talk, it's just like writing a draft. We write and write and write. But by actually using silence strategically in a meeting, in a conversation, it actually helps us to edit our thoughts before they come out of our mouth. And that's why we can actually say more with less words.
I absolutely love it. That's why I've been a fan of your work and I've been seeing your progress. And you started this and I've been fan ever since. And the funny thing is, ironically, you would say that it got me inspired to tap more into myself, like amongst other things. I've been doing this for like 5 years now, tapping more into myself. But so I was that person who used to like I still speak a lot, but I also listen. I'm also doing lots of mindfulness. So I've changed and grown over the years. But I used to be that person you just described, like the person who shielded herself with words all the time because she was so afraid of being alone with herself.
Yeah.
She was so afraid to be silent because that silence was so scary.
Mm.
So when I started working with myself in the beginning, I felt very uncomfortable. It was like the silence was killing me.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, but now I embraced it so much in the silent. I find peace now. So I've really changed myself. Like it took time. All things take time. That's what I tell my clients. All good things take time. You
Oh
will
yeah.
feel uncomfortable in the beginning, but that's normal. Your brain is not used to it. It's telling you, what is this? I don't like this. This is unknown territory. I feel frightened. That's what the brain does. It wants to protect you 24/7 and you
Mm.
feel terrified, but that's okay. That's normal. Just keep on doing it, and you will find inner strength within you how much silence actually helps you progress in everything.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good. I yesterday I talked with a CEO. Of she has a company that has branches in Singapore and Denmark and Finland, and
Oh,
she's a very extroverted, and she's like, just like you said, oh, I'm a fan of your work, and she really likes my work, but she can't stop herself, even though she knows all the reasons why. And like she has this, yesterday when I met her, she had this, like back to back meetings with her employees, but and she was like so drained, and I don't have even have time to go out to the toilet, and she was
oh
drained,
wow.
but she wanted to give her employees like full attention, so she didn't want to stop them, and she let them talk. The problem was that they just talked too much then, and time flew, and then suddenly she was late, and she was so drained. So it's like, you know what, it sounds like a paradox, but if you actually want to give them time, you have to limit their time. So
Absolutely.
one of the things that you can use, I always use timers, so I set a lot of timers on my telephone,
Mm.
to yeah, I do that from a knowledge, just like, that we are unfortunately very irrational creatures as human beings in many
Oh
regards.
yes, we are.
So
Everything we are not,
therefore,
but it's the
there,
opposite. Yeah,
there are all the things we know we should do, and then we don't do it.
of course.
Uh, and and it's the same here. So for example, when it comes to talking, a lot of us, we kind of, uh, almost drug addicts to talking, because it actually has a hormonal, a biological, reward, to hear yourself talk, and then also see
It's the
someone
ego.
acknowledging you. It's a dopamine fix you get. So I actually told this CEO, you know what, you actually need to see yourself as a drug addict, and I'm telling you to stop taking that drug, because she can't stop herself talking. She
Oh
can't
wow.
stop being in meetings
Yeah.
and constantly talking. And it's not, she's not special. She's not unique in any way. It's like so many especially managers and leaders have this problem, because that's how they came to power. That's how they elevated their career,
I
because
understand.
they
Yeah,
were very
that
good
makes
at
sense.
talking.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, but there's so many levels of this, and
No,
there's so
I'm
many different.
glad you mentioned the reward system in the brain because so I want to go a bit back from the reward system. I want to go back to the ego with Freud now. So what happens in the brain is also that it always has to be about us all the time, subconsciously, even though we like, no, I'm a helper, I'm a healer, I help you. But the brain is telling, no, I have to put myself in here, right? That's why people love to hear themselves talking. Basically, it makes them feel good, and then the reward system is activated because of the ego taking over. So it's like there's so much more to it, but yeah, the act is activated basically. But it's a power to be silent, and I've discovered that like over the years that it's a superpower actually to be silent.
It is. It is such a superpower. And it's a superpower in your own life, and it's a superpower just to be silent with yourself. So when you're driving in a car, you don't always have like 10 audiobooks and 10 podcasts and radio at the same
That's
time.
what I do.
You
I
can
always have
actually sit
something
with
on.
yourself. Yeah, because that's also how I see that people are addicts to information. They are information addicts. So they have this constant information, and if you know how the brain works, you know that if it just all the time takes in new information and it never gets time to actually process the information, we have a problem. It's when you go into this, and you know that the brain's default mode network, where you
Yes,
start processing everything and you see new solutions, you're more creative, you go down with all the trash of all the useless information, but you need that downtime,
of
which is
course.
doing seemingly nothing. But so that's why I for example, I'm very ambivalent about the word pauses. We should have more pauses or breaks in our everyday, because as I see it, when you are silent in a meeting, for example, your brain is not on pause. That's where your brain are really active. On the other hand,
Absolutely.
think about how many lectures you've been at, or conferences where someone just like blah 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 been talking, and in that stream of talk, that's where your brain shut down. So for me, using silence is not a pause. Actually, it's actually here where we ignite the brain. That's why we have to do it continuously during not only the day but also
Mhm.
within a meeting.
That's so interesting. It's so fascinating. I would love to take part in one of those meetings because I never tried it.
Ah,
I've only tried the small talk meetings.
yeah, but that's the norm around the world, and I can see that because, of course, most of my clients are here in Denmark, but I also started to do it around in the world, in the
Yes,
States,
please tell us
and
about that. You took it to
in
Asia now. Why Asia? What about the cultural differences? Why are
yeah.
they being such a fan of your work, Lo? So those questions is what I basically have.
Yeah. So the reason why last year I started working in Asia, and by the way, when I say working in Asia, I don't travel there back and forth. It's actually online. So
Oh
I
yeah,
conduct I facilitate workshops online. I have one to
that's
one with
amazing.
top management. I do keynotes for the employees on online keynotes to bring in the idea and the mindset about this. And the reason why I suddenly was doing that in Japan, Korea, and Taiwan was because there's a president for this German company called RWE Renewables, and he is Danish. So he had been following me on LinkedIn, and when my Danish book came out, which is directly translated "Noise-Free Leadership,"
Okay.
when that came out, he actually in walking around in Taiwan, he was listening to that on an audiobook.
Wow,
By the
that's
way,
amazing.
yeah, and so he listened to that book and was and what he saw, he saw a great potential for his especially his organization, because
Mm,
they work with both European employees and Asian employees, and
okay.
just as the same universal challenges that we have around the world between very extroverted employees and more introverted employees, then it's some of the similar challenges that you can also face when you have a very like European employer, and
Mhm.
then employee, and then the Asian employee, because they speak more, they talk more, they are more interacting as a part of the European culture. So this
Absolutely
CEO
amazing.
for this, he saw a potential there in bringing in this neutralizing silence, the silent co-creation, which
Hmm.
is also one of my terms, because we experience this co-creation in silence. Everyone is equal. So I've been
I love
doing that
that you
for
said that.
10 years.
In
What?
silence, everyone is equal. I love that. I just wanted to highlight that sentence you just said. In
Yeah,
silence, everyone is equal.
yeah,
Because especially in Asia, well, also in Denmark, but especially in Asia, they have much hierarchy workplace. Like in the US, like you have this boss, and it's a different culture because I've studied cultures as well. But I like that we all come together in silence. Like there's no me being your boss or you being underneath, or it doesn't matter because in silence we just come together. I love that. That's amazing.
But thank you for seeing the potential there, because it is really profound. Like I have magical experiences from the, like, I've been researching this for 20 years, but
Oh wow.
I've been working with this, like I've dedicated my career the
Yeah.
last 10 years just working on the silent performance approach, how we can implement that and how we can work with it. I just see so many, like, almost magical experiences of people feeling they know each other better after being silent. They like each other better. It can do something with conflicts. In Asia, like one of the managers said, after they've been doing it for a few weeks, he said that he saw like 30% more interaction from Asian employees than
Oh
before.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow,
And
that's amazing.
then there's another aspect of this which is very important, and which is why I hope everyone will work with this and try to go on and bring this on the agenda. It is
Mhm.
the idea of having a mandatory silence. This can be a little provocative for something, because when something is mandatory, we feel forced.
It's like,
But
oh.
look at it this way. What we are experiencing in most companies and organizations now is that we have a meeting culture we have to attend to, and it
Mhm.
is mandatory to do it. It is mandatory to participate in meetings after meetings. It is mandatory to be exposed to thousands and thousands of words, hour per hour after hour. That is mandatory. Silence is not a part of that equation. So what
Mhm.
we're doing with the silent performance philosophy and approach is that we're bringing in these breaks of silence, and we have to make them mandatory, because if they're not
I
mandatory,
understand what you're saying.
they'll never come.
Mhm.
And this is thing that actually will be very interesting for your area, is that and I experienced that especially in Asia, where they are really hardworking cultures, and and they have a lot of responsibility. They're very responsible. They feel that we really have to perform all the time. And I remember I spoke with one of the employees that said, um, I I so much appreciate after we started implementing this mandatory silence in our meetings, because whenever she experienced that silence, it's always the first time during the day where she can just relax, where she can breathe. And I don't even have to do breathing exercises, which is very good that you do, but I don't even have to make it. They still feel falling down, the
Mhm.
calmness coming in. Because look at this. If I tell, if you have a company with 1,000 people, and we tell them all, you should all remember to have breaks in your workday. It's
Mhm.
very important for your brain, so please take those breaks. A lot of people will say, oh, I don't feel it's time now. And
Mm.
if they have that break, oh,
They always
there's
switch to
so
it.
much other stuff I should do right now, so they can't enjoy it. They feel they feel yeah, over responsible,
Mm.
and they have a bad consciousness that they're doing that. But because it's mandatory, it
It
actually
sticks out, and then they perform better. Fun stuff, huh?
what.
No, I said when they have those breaks, they actually perform better.
Of course they do, but it has to be that it has to be a part of the culture. It has to be facilitated. It has to be something they do together. Because
Mhm.
if they have to just do it only alone, then most of them wouldn't do it.
Yeah, that's true. That's how we work as humans. We tend to procrastinate on the things that are good for us because we like to be doing the same things over and over, even though it's bad habits. It's like the circle just repeats itself. And taking
Yeah.
that time out to zoom into yourself by being silent or doing breathing or whatever you're doing, being in nature. So I used to take nature breaks when I was working in the company in the city of Copenhagen. So we had Kongshav, which is a big central park, and I was the only one in the company. Okay, big agency. I was running the marketing department. I was the only one who took my lunch break in the park each and every day because I needed to clear my mind. No one walked with me, Bastian. No one came along even once. I was there for 2 years. It's it's like no one did the ordinary extra like that thing because that was just weird. And they told me you're not social, you're not being social with us, you're not eating with us.
Mm.
And I said I need to clear my mind if I have to be creative in my work. I have to do this each and every day. I needed to pause everything and be in nature with the trees. And they were like, oh, they was just laughing at me, and no one understood it. And then I incorporated the middle of the day, I incorporated 10 minutes of meditation for
Mm.
everyone.
Mm.
And first, the females, they were like, okay, we're going to try it. The 10-minute meditation where we did breathing or we just sit in silence, just like you're mentioning, together. They did it. And then they were like, wow, I feel so much lighter. I perform better. And then the men came along. It's always like that. They were being skeptical, like, we don't have time for this. It's like you go and smoke for 15 minutes, but you can't do this, which is good for everything inside of you. So it's like changing the culture. So I kind of did it, but it took some time. And then one colleague started to walk with me. So like people started to like doing it, slowly, slowly. So it's like when one do it, one person doing it, and then other do not follow. We like to follow a group. So it makes sense what you're saying that they wouldn't do it alone, but if they do it together, it's like we're part of a group, and the brain just like being part of a group. Um, so yeah, I just felt like sharing that because I know how that is.
No, but you're saying you have so many interesting points here. It's both that some types of employees will always be faster in adopting new, more alternative practices, and then there will always also be the resistance. And
There
I
will
just
always be resistant, and I feel often it's men. I don't know why. Maybe I'm wrong. You must correct me. But I feel like women are more like, I don't know. They're like not so negative about mindfulness. Then like we cannot generalize, but this is what I've experienced in the corporate world. Now most of my clients are actually men. So I'm just saying, in the corporate world it was different. Now I'm working with different people from around the world. So
it's,
but they're
it's
all high achievers. They all have like high, like they're engineers, doctors, psychologists. So I do work with people having stressful jobs, and
mm,
that's why they need coaching to kind of get them to calm down and get them to seek the daily dose of happiness again into their lives.
it's
So
great. It's
yeah.
good that you help people from around the world. I just thought about something that I also think is very important when we talk about this, the resistance, because sometimes all the great things can be stopped by the resistance, because it takes a lot of courage for people to go through someone who are very skeptical and saying, "Oh," because it's very easy to how to say. It's easy to knock something, a new idea, out of the table, because it's difficult to prove it because
Mhm.
they haven't experienced it. So they say, I don't think this will work. And what do you say to that? So what I also encourage more of my clients to do is also create these small ambassador groups. So no one has to stand alone in this. So like, for example, in your old job, like imagine that you had like just 3 or 5 or 10 people like going with you and meeting at lunch to talk about what is it actually, and going into meter perspective, start
Mhm.
learning together, why is this working, and also being able to communicate and formulate the why behind this. Then it's
Mhm.
something that can spread in the organization. I see that in all my clients, that there are some employees that are more they're more ahead than others. It's very important to nurture that and nurture and create a community internally. It's extremely
Absolutely.
important.
Yeah. And it takes like it takes courage to do something different, right? But I was never like, I didn't care if they liked me or not. I was like, I'm doing it for me. And I did try to tell them about the brain because that is basically what I was doing. I was teaching other companies about the brain. And I was also doing it internally. So they kind of knew, but it's like they know it, but it's like, nope, I'm going to do the same old thing as I've always been doing because it feels comfortable. That is how humanity is, basically. So it's like, how much are you going to fight? But eventually, I did get people to walk with me, so that was amazing, and meditate with me. I did succeed in doing that. Yeah. So, Bastian, I loved all of this. As I said in the beginning, I'm a fan. So, where can people reach you if they want to work with you or they want to get your book? Or I know you've been on several podcasts as well. Like, where can people find you?
Yeah. Yeah, so I think the best place to find me is on LinkedIn,
Mhm.
and my name is Bastian Overgaard with two A's. I don't know if you can write my name somewhere.
I will I will tag you in my YouTube description. I will tag you
Yeah,
so people can find you. Absolutely.
you can do that, and then people are very welcome to contact me. They can refer to your great podcast here, and then I can share some information, because like my primarily my website is in Danish. I have some links in English. I have some articles. I have a few podcasts in English,
Mhm.
and then I also have my book. My Danish book has been translated. It is still only on Kindle. It's a Kindle
Okay.
version on Amazon. I'm,
Mhm.
I'm working on getting it out. I want to make it look very good, so I'm looking for a good graphic designer, so
Mhm.
we can have it on paperback. But it's called Noise Free Rethinking How We Talk, and
Okay.
it should be available on Amazon right now. So
That's
rethinking
amazing.
noise free rethinking how we talk. But just contact me on LinkedIn, and let's start a dialogue if this is something that could be interesting for you. I would love
Yeah,
to.
because you do work internationally, and my podcast is international, and my
Yeah.
listeners are all over the world. So yeah,
Exactly,
so I
and I
think
really think I really want to like I'm so honored that you with your work, great work, you see that there's a potential here, that you see the cutting edge part of my work,
absolutely.
and I'm really looking for people around the world who can see the potential and want to be part of a movement, because this is so powerful, and we only had a half an hour here, so I've only told you just a little peek
The
of
top
what
of the iceberg,
the
as you
top of the
say.
iceberg. It's so amazing what this
We
can
can
do.
always do a part two. We can always do a part two. Like
Yeah,
I'm open to that. I would love that. I haven't done it with anyone yet, but like I'm open to it.
I
And
would love
so a
I
big
would love that.
fan. And thank you so much for your time. Like the honor is on my side for your time. I know how busy. Well, we're all busy, right? But I really honor you for coming on. And I think my listeners will benefit from this, as it's all about mental health. And when we tune into ourselves, we actually do become the best version of ourselves. So it's a superpower, right? With that said, thank you everyone and see you again in the next episode. Bye.
Bye, bye, Farah.